Should work. Let's go. You got this bed filled with freaking dog hair. Let's see if they join. They probably didn't even get the notification. Let's play some Xbox. People are in class watching my live stream. That's crazy. That's when you know I'm a good streamer. Just goated like that. What can I say? Let's see if I'm live. I'm not live? What? Oh yeah, I am. Goated. I've done over 100 live streams. That is crazy. Oh.
Guys.
Lavender. I met at ElijahVR. Oh yeah, I remember making a video with him. That's goated. That is goated.
Guys, I just had the craziest encounter.
Okay, pal. How do I turn down the volume? I guess you can't. There's my music channel. Oh, I forgot to show Grandma that song too. I'm just yapping just to yap. Look at all the songs. I've uploaded 80 songs in 8 days. Look at that. Like, people use my name, and I don't even know them. Bacon Gamer. Like, maybe I do know him, because apparently I haven't met it on Roblox. Hi, Blondie. Look at this. 7.1 million views, sorry. That is insane. You guys are amazing. That song will never get old. Why do people tag me in videos and never... At ElijahVR, a verified, commented on my live stream. What the fuck is this? I love surprising kids by commenting on their videos. It's fun. Two months ago, and I'm just now hearing about it. If you guys ever do tag me in a video, tag me in it so I can watch it. Otherwise, I'll never see it. Oh, man. I'm not tired, chat. You are. What are you doing, Roscoe? You being good? Yep. No way people are stealing my videos, bro. Bro, put his own watermark. Gorilla Tag Live, code ElijahVR.
Alright, what's up, guys? Today I'm going to be doing live with ElijahVR. I'm live right now. Yeah, I'm going to be.
No way. That is not me. Roller VR. That is not me, pal. Maybe it is. I don't know. I don't remember. But W video.
What's the guys back another video?
Jesus, dude. Chat's pretty dead. I'm gonna go live for 3 hours. What's up, Christina? Welcome in. That's crazy that I'm not famous, bro. Oh, that was when I bought my first shirt with TCC Gold. Hello again, Christina. CapCut's been banned. Let me go on my YouTube channel. No way I remembered. That is good. All right, chat. Hold on. All right, we're back.
List your vacation rentals on Booking.com opens the door to more guests. Like this bunch. Please love.
I can go live and watch YouTube.
I protect the.
Hi, baller.
Colin Dixon saw flashing blue lights appear behind him as he drove home from his shift at the Securitas Cash Depot. As he pulled over and followed the officer's orders, something felt off. A hesitation in their voice, a glance that lingered too long. He had been trained for this exact moment. If ever stopped by police, he was to tell them that he worked at the Cash Depot, insist on following them back to the station, never getting into their car. But tonight, he didn't follow protocol. Worse, his personal panic alarm wasn't with him. What Colin didn't realize is that these men weren't police at all. They were criminals, ex-cage fighters, career hustlers, and small-time crooks. And that
I do not know you like that, little bro. I would say yes if I knew you, but I don't know you like that. Yeah. Bushman. I think I already commented on this video, didn't I? Yeah, I did. Eddie pinned the comment. That is insane. 108K.
See?
Broke. Your grandma broke. Your auntie broke. Your brother broke. You broke. Vibes. Vibes is live. Really? Who's vibes? Hold on, let me check my vibes. I feel like I've heard that name before. I'll look it up on my Xbox because I'm on my, not my Xbox, but my cousin's. Hold on, Jim. Vibes. Vibes ain't live. He live. Or maybe he is, and I'm just looking at the wrong channel.
Come back in.
Location to retrieve the creature. They were shocked to see the level of destruction caused by location.
Chat, we're going live for 3 hours. Hold on. Seriously, how the hell do I turn on this TV, bro? Oh. Oh. Oh, it's that easy?
Stressed out? Time to refresh your rhythm with track.
I am not watching a 40-second ad. I'm sorry.
Domino's original stuffed crust pizza tastes like never before. Because Domino's has never had stuffed crust before. Seriously. But we do now. So get any medium two toppings.
Ow.
Parmesan stuffed crust pizza for $4.99 with item and batch.
Yo, TCC, welcome back.
Of course they take Discover. It's stuck in the past, baby. You're the one who owns 13.
I'm going live.
And these are my 14.
W, I'll make sure to, in 3 hours, I'll make sure to watch it. Because I'm going live for 3 hours. Because this is how long this video is.
We can't agree on the house. Y'all need realtor.com. With over 500,000 new listings every month, you can find one today. Better put key ring on it. Realtor.com.
Okay, bro. Good luck on the stream. W, thank you.
Location to retrieve the creature. They were shocked to see the level of destruction caused by something so small. The scent of blood and smoke filled the air, and severed limbs littered the ground alongside splintered wood and collapsed brick. The survivors removed from the wreckage were inconsolable, only calming down once they were given an amnesic to erase their memory of the encounter with SCP-058. They had to be given new lives as well, as there was nothing left of their old ones. SCP Foundation agents were only able to capture and contain SCP-058 after it was crushed by pieces of a building that collapsed on top of it. They found it flattened under a slab of stone, legs flailing uselessly, tentacles limp. The agents were able to safely remove the debris and bring in the heart without any more more casualties that day. Once it was brought into captivity, the heart was contained for 3 weeks and remained largely quiet during
Do
that
you
time.
remember me?
It
I
was
don't, honestly.
inconceivable that this small creature hadn't been killed in the incident, but the Foundation would soon learn
Yo,
that this
like up the
creature was
stream, y'all.
especially durable. It escaped once more while being transferred to an SCP containment site, again causing injuries and death.
Hold on, let me
Having only
check.
experienced SCP-058 in its docile, injured form,
You were in like one other
responsible for
live
the
stream,
transfer was
homie.
unprepared for the sheer power and violence the creature was capable of.
Chicken
It
drop.
was able
Yeah,
to
I do
escape an
remember you.
armored car and make its way into a forest, where it eviscerated several
Yeah, I
squirrels and
do remember
rabbits.
you.
Or rather, they were
Never mind.
believed to be squirrels and rabbits. The remains were too mutilated to properly identify. It was only finally apprehended after being crushed by an armored tank. But even this didn't kill the creature, and it was transferred to Armed Biocontainment Area 14, where it remains to this day. There is a great deal about SCP-058 that is horrifying, but there is one attribute it has shown in captivity that would make even the most seasoned researcher's skin crawl. Though it has no
Whoa, that's a
anatomical
personal
capacity for
question.
speech, no throat, vocal cords, or even a
I live on
respiratory
Earth.
system,
That's where I live.
SCP-058 speaks. Not only does it speak, but it speaks constantly and
I'm
uses
Elijah
the
and I
voice
approve
of
this
only
message.
British men. No one knows who the voice might belong to, or if it belongs to anyone at all. Perhaps it belongs only to SCP-058 somehow. As is often the case with SCPs that are capable of speech, there have been multiple attempts to interview the creature,
Sweet.
and each time, it ended in complete disaster.
Oh,
One
yeah.
interview with an available transcript, interview 05804, was conducted by Dr. Johnston with several personnel in the room for additional security. Dr. Johnston attempted to
I'll
get
just pick my
origins of the
nose and
creature,
lie.
asking for its name and where it was from. The creature responded in cryptic, unsettling poetry, giving answers to simple questions with, I had dreams of the Queen, wonders that lived inside the hearts of love, and silent treatments for all the elderly that I knew were once whole. After the fourth recitation of a similar verse from the heart, Personnel D067 made a comment on the creepy nature of its responses, almost as if it was offended by the remark. SCP-058 immediately stretched a tentacle across the room, wrapped it around D067, and lifted him into the air. He began screaming and clawing at the tentacle in an attempt to free himself. As his fellow personnel tried to help him, they grabbed at the tentacle, but found their hands pierced and bloodied by the spikes that cover it. Dr. Johnston commanded 058 to let him go, but it did not oblige. Instead, the man was crushed to death by the tentacle, and his limp body left to drop to the floor. The interview concluded with a single statement from the nightmarish heart. The sensual violence of lust is all the assurance you'll ever need to know the worth of life.
I'm not gonna lie,
SCP-058 never seems to say anything
if you
that has
did
to
that,
do with the people or
no,
events
it's
around
fine.
it. It
It's fine.
speaks in the same haunting, poetic language even when it's attacking or killing something. No matter what happens to it, what is done to it, or what anyone says,
I'm committed to go
SCP-058
live for
stands
3 hours.
and its tone of voice repeats a message unchanging. Attempts to interview have been abandoned due to the safety risk involved. So what happened to the creature often called the Heart of Darkness? Where is it now? SCP-058 is kept in an isolated containment chamber made of reinforced heat-resistant steel with a backing of reinforced concrete. In order to placate its bloodthirsty, carnivorous tendencies, the creature is given a live cow every 3 days. It is uncertain how exactly SCP-058 eats, given that it does not have a mouth or stomach. But every time it is fed to the cow, only bones remain. Routine maintenance is conducted at the containment chamber. The heart is never allowed out of its containment area under any circumstances. After 2 previous escapes from containment, the Foundation is not taking any chances. Its constant speech is recorded via audio devices that are running at all times. Out of concern for their safety and mental
To be a pet parent
I
is
hate
to be
YouTube.
human.
Why aren't there people talking? I don't know.
Sometimes
I'm just
it
not
feels
that
like
entertaining, I guess.
we can only do so much. That's why more and more pet people rely on hills with science
scientifically proven formulas to give more love than humanly possible. Because you're only human, there's Hills. Science does more.
Reaching your financial goals can feel
You gotta think people are still in school, though,
gives you personalized
and
guidance
work.
to improve your credit. Savings
So, of course, there's not gonna be people talking.
your way to money. Intuit Credit Karma. Karma you can count on.
New Halo Top Chocolate Fudge Brownie has brownie chunks and batter swirls in every bite.
Mental health. No personnel are permitted to listen to recordings of SCP-058 speaking for more than 30 minutes at a time. It is unknown what will happen to someone who listens for longer, but it has been suggested that the consequences could be dire. If the creature ever escapes again, the containment site is ordered to be destroyed via the detonation of an on-site nuclear weapon. Under no circumstances can it be allowed to make its way out into the world again. Even with all these precautions in place, SCP-058 has been responsible for over 150 deaths at its current containment site. There are some at the Foundation who have campaigned for SCP-058 to be terminated, believing that there is more harm than good done by keeping it alive. However, all
Yeah.
attempts to terminate it have so far failed. No matter how much physical trauma the heart
Good
suffers,
luck with
it
that.
does not seem to be able to be killed. It can only be incapacitated for a short time. There is a classic horror story by Edgar Allan Poe called The Telltale Heart. In it, a man murders an old man and buries his body beneath the floorboards of his home. There, even though the old man is certainly dead, the murderer swears he can hear the beating of the heart coming up through the floorboards. No matter what he does to quiet the sound, he cannot escape it, and is eventually driven mad by the incessant beating of the dead man's heart. SCP-058 may not be a man's heart, a human heart, or even a real heart at all. However, just like the Telltale Heart, it continues to impossibly beat no matter how hard anyone tries to stop it. The steady thump of its pulse haunts the SCP Foundation, a grim reminder that there is something within its walls that can and will kill everyone it can if given the chance. It couldn't be destroyed by collapsed buildings, an armored tank, or an army of experts, and the contingency plan of a nuclear blast is not even guaranteed to work. It is entirely possible that, once the facility has been laid waste and all the staff have been incinerated, and the smoke has finally cleared, the heart of darkness will still be there, still beating, still talking, and still killing. It all started in 1983 with reports of human trafficking in the
I
heart of
have
the
no
city's
idea.
center. The
It's
FBI had
because
gotten word of a potential
I have no
trafficking
idea,
ring
and
operating
also
out of
I
an
have no
abandoned
idea, and
department
also.
store in Las
What?
Vegas, Nevada, and immediately began organizing a
That made
secret
no
raid on the
sense.
building. While they would indeed encounter something horrifying within that abandoned department store, it wasn't criminals or human trafficking. In fact, it wasn't human at all. This is the horrifying story of SCP-847. After weeks of planning, the raid on the department store was conducted in the dead of night. Agents covered all the exits and entrances, and a helicopter was stationed nearby in case anyone attempted to run. It should have been a perfect trap, but things never go as planned when you don't know what you're dealing with. The agents breached the door and began searching the darkened building. It didn't appear that there was any power, so the traffickers must have had great night vision and a high tolerance for creepy locales. Agents soon heard a faint humming sound coming from below, a generator. It must be located in the basement and be the hub of this criminal enterprise. Readying themselves for whatever they were about to find, the agents descended into the basement. As they moved deeper into the building, they found that light rigs had been set up. They must be getting closer to something, but that something is still a mystery. A senior FBI special agent was leading the charge, his pistol drawn and ready. It was quiet, too quiet. Did the traffickers already realize they were coming and clear out? He was ready to consider this bust a bust, when he heard a quiet wailing in the distance, a persistent whining whimper that was undeniably human. He gave the signal to his fellow agents to follow the noise.
Is that
They
Jake?
proceeded forward towards the pained sounds and found themselves in a wide, well-lit room filled with department store mannequins. All were broken to some degree. Some were totally smashed to pieces. Some were chained to walls and
That is the maximum? What are you talking about?
The agent wondered whether this was some kind of twisted joke or a messed up avant-garde art piece. That's when he noticed her. A single crouched figure in the distance, hunched over and whimpering in the darkened corner of the room near a full-length mirror. He couldn't fully make her out, but he got the sense that something was wrong.
Oh,
She was injured, bent over.
yep.
Was she even missing an arm? Just what had these monsters done to this woman? He whispered a request for backup into his radio and pushed on. When he got within 50
160 characters is the max you can.
meters of this strange woman, her demeanor changed entirely. She jerked around, her movements forced, erratic, and painful looking. The woman stared directly into the agent's eyes and began hobbling towards him, occasionally stopping to strike a pose as if modeling during a photo shoot. Just then, the agent made a horrifying realization. This thing moving towards them wasn't a woman at all. It was a living mannequin. As she got closer, though, he realized that the mannequin's broken left forearm had been carved into a large shiv. A female junior FBI agent had been one of the many to pour into the room when the raid leader had radioed for backup. The second she entered the 50-meter range of this strange mannequin, everything changed. In an instant, its eyes and mouth began dripping with a thick, viscous resin. Its whimpering gasps suddenly
That is
became
so
hoarse with
creepy.
severe splitting screeches, and it turned its gaze from the senior FBI agent. It was now focused on the junior agent, who had just entered the room and broke into a terrifying run straight towards her. The mannequin moved with a violent single noise. Other agents began firing, but it was running freakishly fast and easily dodged most of the bullets. The few that actually hit seemed to do nothing to slow the creature down. It shrugged off the damage
Mm.
and kept running. With a great leap, it landed on the terrified junior agent and began jabbing her with its bladed arm. The other agents stopped firing, fearing they might accidentally hit their colleague during the panic. The mannequin
This is what
fought
I'm
to its
watching.
knees, clawing and stabbing, with the strange resin leaking out of its mouth and orifice. Terrified and unable to reach her gun, the agent remembered her training. She reached into her belt
Shut
and
up,
grabbed
big
her
boy.
stunner, jamming the two probes tightly
Shut
into
up,
the creature's
Togi.
chest and giving it 30,000 volts. The creature spasmed, fell backwards, and collapsed in a heap on the ground, frozen. This was the first recorded encounter with SCP-847, a violent
I
living
just
mannequin
did.
with a serious problem with women. This terrifying report was passed up the chain of command until it landed on the desk of a Foundation agent working in the FBI. The Foundation quickly swooped in and claimed the mannequin, delivered necessary amnestic treatment to all who'd witnessed it, and closely observed the female junior FBI agent's recovery in a private hospital with Foundation ties. As it turns out, they were right to do so, as the junior agent was in for a gruesome fate. While the wound she'd suffered at the hands of SCP-847 didn't appear fatal, the fact that the mannequin's anomalous resin excretions entered the open wound changed everything. Several hours after being converted, the junior agent began complaining of limb stiffness and difficulty moving. This quickly developed into full paralysis. Over time, her skin and internal organs began to harden, until the process, dubbed plastination, came to a gruesome end. The junior agent wasn't just dead, she had been transformed into a mannequin. Foundation researchers were met with a truly horrifying realization. This means that all the other broken mannequins found with SCP-847 were likely once living humans, attacked and transformed by the anomaly, now a source for new harvested body parts. Now safely interred in a Foundation containment facility, though, the real tests on SCP-847 to determine its behavior and physical attributes begin. The most important detail, SCP-847
Like
exhibits a
up the
resin
stream,
that's
y'all.
exclusively directed towards women, as opposed to when it encounters men, and its instincts are more self-destructive. Through a series of tests and observations, researchers have been able to pin down 3 different distinct patterns of behavior for SCP-847. Pattern Z behaviors occur when there are no humans standing within 50 meters of SCP-847. The mannequin will seek out a full-length mirror and pose in front of it, much like a department store mannequin attempting to show off its clothes. It remains largely inanimate during these periods and will very occasionally use a finger or whatever appendage is available, given its habit for self-mutilation, to scratch messages on nearby surfaces. pattern Y behavior occurs when male humans with XY chromosomes enter a 50-meter radius around SCP-847. Just like its reaction to the male FBI agents who found it, 847 will initially emit vocalizations that seem like whimpering gasps, before making eye contact and striking provocative poses while approaching the subject. It will then remain static and allow the male subject to pose its body. However, after the male subject leaves the
I
area,
don't think so.
847 will enter a state of considerable distress and begin removing or shattering parts of its body. The Foundation has found that the parts removed or shattered are often consistent with parts that the male subjects found displeasing during interactions, showing a masochistic desire to impress. These parts are then harvested back from plastinated victims, which brings us to the most dangerous of its
Togi
behaviors.
said something in chat.
Pattern X behaviors occur when female humans enter a 50-meter radius around the creature. 847 will immediately become brutally aggressive, switching its noises from whimpers to violent screeches and
You mean
growls.
175?
847 experiences enhanced physical capabilities during Pattern X states. Its speed has been measured at 45 kilometers per hour, making it as fast as the legendary SCP-096. It's also been shown to exhibit extreme physical strength. It's during this pattern of behavior that it begins excreting its deadly resin, which has been proven to only be dangerous to women. In these states, the only thing capable of reliably pacifying the being is a powerful electric shock. The shock causes the creature's resin to harden, temporarily incapacitating it for roughly 5 minutes. Other conventional weapons and damage has no meaningful effect on SCP-847. After a number of incidents that had sad and violent endings,
You're
the
welcome.
Foundation Ethics Committee forbade the use of female D-class
Now to
personnel
keep that, you gotta be in my live streams more
dedicated to female
consistently.
subjects. 847 always slipped into a state of extreme aggression, so instead the Foundation began testing with male
So
subjects
just
in hopes of
remember that.
better understanding the dynamics between human males and SCP-847. Various misogynistic D-class males were introduced into the containment chamber, which was modeled to look like a bedroom for the purposes of behavioral study. Each one, either during or after their interaction with SCP-847, was told to comment on some aspect they felt dissatisfied with. The mannequin shattered its own chest after hearing it described as being out of proportion. After another D-class called its nose ugly, the mannequin broke it off. After another said that its hair was out of fashion and commented on its inability to drink, it tore out its hair and liver. All parts were replaced after the experiments. Things took their most violent and upsetting turn yet with the introduction of D-7294. A lot of the time, D-class personnel are considered to be as anonymous as they are expendable, but D-7294 is an exception. Before becoming D-class, he was a successful cello teacher who brutally murdered one of his teenage students and her mother. He's typically employed in tests when the Foundation wishes to see interactions between anomalies and humans with confirmed psychopathic personalities. During his interaction with SCP-847, he belittled and humiliated the mannequin. He forced it into uncomfortable poses and even snapped off one of its fingers before being dragged from the room by Foundation guards. In the following TV, he further berated the mannequin as useless and lousy at its job of being controlled by him. In response, 847 extracted its own brains, eyes, and clavicle before shattering its own hands in dismay. So why does 847 behave this way? While it may appear harmless, it seems that the reason SCP-847 does what it does is all too human. It hurts women if it itself is hurting, and it's willing to hurt itself even more for the approval of the objects of its desire. As a result, it's an anomaly trapped in an endless cycle of pain and violence. Perhaps one day, it'll be able to free itself from the loop, but that day is unlikely to come for this murderous mannequin anytime soon. Have you ever had a nightmare that you're running down a long, dark hallway, getting chased by something you can't see? The thing behind you isn't fast, but that doesn't matter. You can't run forever. The thing knows it. It is a patient. It's usually just one person trying on shoes.
Discover doubles your cash back at the end of your first year, so I'm gonna use mine to get something for my beautiful stunt double, Eileen.
You earn, we match.
Wow.
Discover cashback match.
We'll take them.
Great.
Can't go.
Discover
New Dopalax liquid gel reactivates your natural gut rhythm overnight.
When it comes to playtime, never let your squad down. Unlock elite gaming tech at Lenovo.com. Prepare for the next era of gaming with an Intel Core Ultra processor based.
Predator. It toys with its food. At first, you move with speed and rhythm. The metallic scraping noise behind you grows quieter. You run and stumble through the dark. Your muscles start to ache and your lungs burn. Your pace slows. It's still coming. You can hear the scraping getting louder. You start to panic. It's completely dark. You don't know where you're running or even what you're running from. All you know, as you bump against the walls and the sharp corners that rush towards you, is that you can't run forever. You trip, fall, and pain explodes through your legs as your knee shatters on the concrete ground. That scraping is getting louder. You can barely breathe. You can't run anymore with your injury. There's no way to stop what's coming. There is no escape. The scraping is right behind you. You scream, and then you wake up. Your heart is pounding like thunder in your chest, and your sheets are soaked with sweat. But you're safe. You're out of those awful dark hallways. But what if this wasn't just a nightmare? What if this scenario was real, and there was no escape from the horror chasing you in the darkness? That's what it's like to have a close encounter with SCP-1918, a sadistic sentient object that loves playing twisted games with its prey. This
Jigsaw.
monster never plays fair, and even worse, it's always just a simple doorway. It may even be hiding behind a door near you right now, waiting to start a game with its new playmate. But soon
Never
you'll
mind, it's not
understand why
Jigsaw.
some doors should never, ever be opened, and why some games are better left unplayed. SCP-1918 is an anomaly with two parts. SCP-1918 itself and SCP-1918-2, the monster's underground lair. The duo are a match made in hell, as the chambers and hallways of 1918-2 are perfectly tailored to 1918's violent hobbies. Nobody knows how long this anomaly has been operating, but it's probably behind countless disappearances. After all, 1918 has a habit of breaking its toys. The nightmare began in a small town in Maine, with a population of only 226 people. But that population was about to get lower. People in the town began to report strange noises at night, a droning metal on concrete scraping noise, like someone dragging a lead pipe along the ground. At first, people just ignored the sound. It was all in their heads, or maybe just a faulty oven or a washing machine on the fritz. Anything that would allow them to forget about the noise and get on with their daily lives. But the noises were coming from below. They could be heard out on the streets, most audibly near manholes and sewer grates. People started feeling unsafe in their homes. The noises were scaring animals and children. People were losing sleep. That
That would be
scraping they all
creepy.
tried to ignore was beginning to get to them all. Letters, emails, and angry phone calls to the town council were piling up. Something
Yes, I
badly
do play
done before
Roblox.
the whole town went crazy.
PCC,
When
put
their
my
office
Roblox
opened today
username in the
to
chat.
investigate the source of the noise at a local sewage treatment facility, considering the scraping was loudest near the sewer grates, everyone just assumed that whatever was causing all this must be connected to the sewers. 4 utility workers were sent to investigate the facility, only to find that the machinery on site was working just fine. The source of the problems must have been coming directly from the underground sewer lines themselves. The 4 workers equipped with headlamps descended
Did you
a
hear
long
that
service tunnel
screenshot?
that fed into the sewer system. As they passed deeper into the tunnel, the darkness around them became thicker. It was a tangible presence that drowned out the light of their headlamps, similar to the anomalous
What's
phenomenon
up,
exhibited by
Ramen? We're
SCP-086.
doing a
The
3-hour
utility
stream like I
workers tried to
promised.
explain
Not Gorilla
what they
Tag, but a
discovered, but they
IRL
knew the
stream.
impossibility in seeing that the tunnel behind them had become a solid,
Because my quest is at
they
home and
were
I'm not
trying,
at home right
but
now.
where? It was too dark to tell. Confused and terrified, the 4 men stuck together, attempting to find a way out. It was too dark to see their hand in front of their face, so all they could do was navigate slowly by feeling the walls around them. These walls felt old, crusty. There was a kind of faint metallic stench hanging in the air too, like old blood. Something horrible had happened here, and something horrible was about to happen again. All they could do was keep moving and try to stay calm. Eventually, after hours of pawing at the walls in the dark, they found an open doorway. One by one, they filed inside, only to feel blinded when bright white ceiling lights suddenly switched on. The room was all white and filled with pipes, large and small, running from wall to wall. Just then, one of the utility workers let out an ear-splitting scream and pointed towards the doorway. His colleagues turned and gasped in shock. There was something outside the door, and it was staring at them. The object filled up almost the entire doorway. It seemed like a demonic hobby horse, made from a black and white candy-striped metal pole with a crude plastic head on top. The head looked like a clown's with a wide, toothy grin, but no visible eyes. It was SCP-1918. The utility workers were frozen as the object leaned forward slightly and slithered into the room, the bottom of the metal pipe scraping against the ground. It was the exact same scraping noise that had been haunting the concerned townsfolk up above. This was the thing behind it all, and as the object moved, its metal pole started to scrape words into the ground. Tick, tack, toe. None of the four utility workers were ever seen again. It didn't take long for the SCP Foundation
I'll
to
still
send
get a
one
lot of
officer
views on
to the
this.
main town and pick up the pieces. All relevant officials were provided amnestics, and cover stories were created for the disappearances of the four utility workers. The Foundation also commandeered the sewage treatment facility that held the entrance to SCP-1918-2, replacing all key roles at the facility with undercover Foundation personnel. SCP-1918 was given a Euclid classification due to the fixed nature of its hunting grounds. And then the real research began. The Foundation soon made some disturbing discoveries. Entrances
No,
to
it's
the
Oliver, not Olive Oil.
SCP-1918-2 area didn't follow any kind of logic. The hunting ground of SCP-1918 could be entered from almost any location, if you're unlucky enough. There are currently 9 known entrances, including 5 sewage grates, 3 utility shafts located in the sewage facility, and 1 toilet. And these are just the ones that the Foundation knows about. There are a huge number of ways to enter SCP-1918-2, but to this day, nothing has ever been able to leave. SCP-1918-2 is contained 20 meters below the streets of this unassuming main town. Personnel, aside from Foundation-approved D-Class guinea pigs, are refused entrance. Researchers have mapped out the layout of 1918-2 through seismic imaging of SCP-1918's movements. There are 18 identical room pairs in SCP-1918-2, or 9 compound rooms.
That would be
Rooms are
creepy.
differentiated between a 1-room and a 2-room by crude carvings on the floors outside of the individual rooms. SCP-1918-2 is symmetrical, with half-a-meter wide paths circling each compound room. The only deviation to this construction are the location of entrances on the sides of each individual room, which vary randomly while the location is active. What exactly does SCP-1918 do in this private little maze? It plays games, of course. Its 2 favorites, as indicated by the words it scrapes into the ground, are
Rascal, you're fine.
Tic-Tac-Toe and Memory. In Tic-Tac-Toe, 1918 moves to each room,
Hi, Bella.
leaving behind X markings on the floors if the room is not already marked with an O, in a manner similar to a game of tic-tac-toe. How a victim is meant to accomplish making a mark or understanding this process is unknown, as no aids are given. Blood is commonly used by victims to make their markings, hence the rusty smell in many of the rooms. In Memory, the trapped victim is rendered unconscious by blunt force, presumably from SCP-1918. The subject regains consciousness in a random section of the facility. Success is marked by finding a 1-room identical to the
Caitlin Clark, amazing at assists. Cambridge, the ultimate assist for your safety.
Come here, Roscoe.
She's taken assisting to a whole new level. Caitlin Clark, great at assists. Cambridge, great at assists for your savings.
What were you thinking for salary?
What were you thinking for salary?
Well, what were you thinking about salary?
What were you?
What do you need to tell me, Ryan?
made to avoid checkmate from my dad?
Yesterday, you couldn't see the move. Today, you see the whole board.
It's hard to believe
And don't spam.
toothpaste can remove 95% of surface stains. But if these little guys can swim hundreds of miles upstream, the natural toothpaste can whiten teeth. Nature doesn't follow the rules. Newtown's main whiten plus toothpaste.
Central Room. This event seems to possess a time limit, as the subject is pursued by SCP-1918 through the halls of the facility. The subject wins by marking the correct rule with an O. What happens if you win or lose these games? It's important to note that SCP-1918 is very competitive and doesn't play fair. If you win, the object will merely accuse you of cheating and start a new game. This will happen again and again until eventually you lose. And what do? Well, take the horrifying encounter D-Class personnel member D-2934 had with SCP-1918. Wearing video and audio equipment, D-2934 was led into SCP-1918-2 by Foundation researchers. When he eventually found his way to the central room, 1918 challenged him to a game of tic-tac-toe. And against all odds, D-2934 won the game. But 1918 didn't take kindly to that. It accused D-2934 of cheating, carving its accusations into the ground before challenging him to a deadly game of memory. After hours of chasing, D-2934 eventually lost his mind and was backed into a corner by 1918. As the object made its way towards him, he panicked, ripped a pipe from the wall, and began smashing 1918's head. As the plastic cracked under the force of the blows, Foundation scientists could see real brains inside. D-2934 screamed, and the video feed cut off. When the video turned back on sometime later, 1918 stared into the camera with a different head mounted atop its metal pole, one that just a few hours earlier had belonged to the unfortunate D-2934. If there's one lesson to be learned from this terrifying anomaly, it's that there truly is no escape from SCP-1918. You're on a road trip, the kind that stretches over days on end, and you need to make multiple stops along the way to leave.
Right, Ryan playing too many games.
The last time you remember stopping to get more gas and a bite to eat was back in Wyoming, and now you're in the heart of Montana. Thankfully, like an oasis in the desert, you see the town of Clearwater off in the distance. It's a vibrant...
Come on, get up here, Bella.
A perfect slice of classic...
Come on. Come on, come here. You want to get up here, right?
Clearwater that time too.
Okay, and stop playing games, Bella. You too, Roscoe. I'm just kidding. You're being a good boy. We're 1 hour in, chat. 2 more hours to go.
The entire staff seems to have changed. It is the exact same diner you ate a year ago, no doubt about that. But it looks like everyone from the wait staff to the cashier...
It's Bella, not Belly.
...all been replaced. You try your best not to think about it. After all, businesses are allowed to replace their staff. But the longer you sit in the diner, the more uncomfortable the feelings become. You need to ask someone, just to push away the fears that you're not going crazy. When the waiter passes by, you compliment the food and mention you ate here last year too. You ask the unfamiliar waiter if they had worked here back then. They confirm that yes, they've always worked here, and so has everybody else. The diner is a family business. You leave town not too long after that, feeling vaguely unsettled. And as a voice on the radio warns about the incoming rain, you tell yourself that you never want to return to the town of Clearwater, Montana. As you leave, the memory of the town seems to fade from your mind in real time. But little do you know, the people of Clearwater will never be able to leave, ever. It's because something horrifying will happen in Clearwater every single year, and that thing is known to the SCP Foundation as SCP-3300. This annual anomalous event is Clearwater's always occurring around mid-June. While many of the mechanics of this event still escape the Foundation's understanding, the outcome is well documented. Every single inhabitant of the town is replaced by a person who
No.
previously existed.
Oliver and Bella, E-L-L-A,
Every person involved
not Belly.
with no memories of the change or who they once were. The process known as SCP-3300 lasts centered around Clearwater, but cutting off neatly just beyond it. What happens in Clearwater remains in Clearwater. And when the process has concluded and the sun shines once more, everybody has been changed. Whenever the Foundation has tried to send personnel or equipment into Clearwater during SCP-3300, one of two things has happened. In the more favorable scenarios, those attempting to enter Clearwater have simply appeared on the other side of the city limits. In the less positive instances, personnel and equipment have been lost forever within. There is no stopping or even understanding SCP-3300. According to Foundation records, Clearwater has been around at least as long as the Foundation itself, perhaps even longer. Clearwater has been able to undergo its yearly nightmare without intrusion due to a unique cognitohazardous effect, which creates a kind of mental block around memories of the town for outsiders. You won't forget Clearwater per se, but you will find it increasingly hard to focus on, like something you can only ever see out of the corner of your eye. There is no saving the people of Clearwater. The horror will play out again and again and again. The Foundation has no first-hand knowledge of what happens in Clearwater during those horrifying 18 days, but one account they have hints at a terrifying possibility. During an excursion into Clearwater, the Foundation managed to collect a diary belonging to a woman named Margaret Lane. To the best of our knowledge, Margaret Lane no longer exists, but if the contents of her diary are to be believed, then what goes on in Clearwater during SCP-3300 is far worse than we ever imagined. Margaret first started her diary not long before SCP-3300's 1995 iteration began. She was in the middle of a tumultuous time in her life, freshly clean from alcohol and drug addiction, forced to live with her antagonistic mother, and having peculiar and distressing dreams. In the first dream Margaret recorded, she was someone else. A woman living in a small hut perhaps a century ago or more. It was playtime. She was looking down upon her daughter, bedridden, her skin covered in painful-looking red blotches. Her husband was already dead. That's when another man enters, a healthy man. He tells her that he's found
This is
himself in a
sad. Why
dream,
is it
that in the
sad?
dream
I'm
he was
watching YouTube,
Margaret
but
awoke
going
and
live,
the
there's
day
nothing sad
was
about
gray.
that.
There were clouds on the horizon. The rain was coming. It drizzled for the next few days before getting more intense, as one would expect from an SCP-3300 cycle. Of course, nothing seemed out of place to Margaret. Life carried on. She continued to stay clean, resisting the offers of her old dealer, though her relationship with her mother remained frosty. The rain started to get worse as voices on the radio insisted that conditions would continue to become more severe over the next few days. They tried their best to maintain normality. Margaret invited some friends, Jared, Sam, Mike, and Isabel, to come over and play D&D at her place.
I like trolls.
While the group roleplayed, there was a furious banging at the door, like whoever
You
was
know what I
home
do
was
to
trying to
trolls?
bash the door down. When Margaret's mom opened the door to investigate the commotion, she saw that an entire family was
They put
asleep.
them in
A
timeout for
father, a
10
mother,
minutes.
and two young children. Father immediately
Bye
began
bye.
furiously asking why all these strangers were in his house. But Margaret's mother tried to tell him that this wasn't his house. He became increasingly
Don't
agitated
ever
and
come
fled
back, Jay
straight into the
Perkins.
home. Margaret's friends attempted to subdue him,
Or you will be
but he
timed
literally
out
went on,
again.
displaying his supernatural strength. Margaret's mom ran in with a golf club and struck the mysterious man in the chest. There was a nasty splat, but he didn't seem to react. The golf club was just embedded in his water. The father then pulled the golf club out of his chest and began beating Margaret's mother to death with it, all while repeating "my house" again and again, while his wife and children watched with broad, sunny smiles in the rain. Somehow Margaret knew that her mother was beyond saving, and that there was no way of defeating these things in a physical confrontation. All they could do was run out to Jared's van with the rest of the group and hightail it to the police station. But when they arrived at the station, the doors were barred and it appeared empty. As the torrential rain hammered down from above, there was nothing left to do but drive out of town and try to escape whatever madness was going on here. But that was easier said than done. They drove for what seemed like hours on end as the rain and the howling wind persisted. Jared had been injured during the fight with the strange family, and his health deteriorated further as the drive stretched on. They should have left the town of Clearwater a long time ago, but it seemed like they were nowhere. It wasn't long before Jared was lying dead in the back of the van, and now there were only four of them left. They kept driving, afraid. Margaret took the opportunity to sleep. It was no time to rest, but she was so exhausted that she had no choice. Margaret had a continuation of her earlier dream. The different her, the dream her, was laying the plague-ridden body of her daughter in the river, but she wasn't the only one.
Reaching your financial goals can feel impossible. Credit Karma gives you personalized guidance to improve your credit payments, taxes, and more.
Y'all, I'll be right back.
Intuit Credit.
Then go to bed, then you have exams, my guy. Don't stay up because I'm streaming. All right, I'm back, Trent.
Nobody knows. Suddenly, all Foundation staff are able to do while stationed at the nearby conditional or is scour radio frequencies for occurrences of SCP-3034. Checking their equipment is properly maintained and calibrated before they are eventually rotated off-site and replaced with a new group of staff. There is only one rule that any Foundation members working at Provisional Site 3034 must follow. They are only permitted to send one radio transmission with their equipment, a single phrase in reply to the SCP-3034 broadcast. Vizio Harashu. Receiving this, the countdown stops and the broadcast ends, but never permanently. SCP-3034 has been known to repeatedly occur, seemingly at random. The shortest recorded gap between broadcasts was 2 weeks, while the longest so far lasted 6 whole months. You may have heard the term number station mentioned before, but these are far from just random numerical sequences sent out over the airwaves without purpose. General speculation surrounding number stations points to them being the tools of espionage agents, a way of sending coded, highly sensitive messages or information without the risk of compromising their cover. The use of number station transmissions is often attributed to spies working on foreign soil, who utilize shortwave radio frequencies, speech synthesis, Morse code, and either regular or sporadic timing schedules. While it's true that times have changed and technology has progressed considerably, there appears to be evidence that number stations are still used among various intelligence and espionage agencies today. Despite being considered an old-fashioned method of communication, these low-tech shortwave stations remain a viable, reliable option for the transmission and reception of intelligence to field agents. The CONET project is a comprehensive archive of this phenomenon, and its founder, Aiken Fernandez, has long been fascinated by number stations. According to him, this system is completely secure because the messages can't be tracked. The recipient could be anywhere. You just send spies to the country and get them to buy a radio. They know where to tune and when. So what does the distorted broadcast of numbers from SCP-3034 mean? Is it the work of covert agents? And if so, whose side are they on? Most importantly, why does the SCP Foundation make certain there are always 3 of its personnel on site, ready to send the all-is-well message whenever SCP-3034 begins broadcasting? SCP-3034 was first discovered by the Foundation in 1964
Oh,
after
mom said
defecting
hi,
from the
by the
Soviet
way.
GRUP, a division tasked with acquiring and studying anomalies on behalf of the USSR, gave them a tip. Commander Robert Mendez, along with a team of 6, including a man named Agent Browning, selected for his knowledge of Russian dialects, were sent to investigate at Provisional Site 3034. Here, the team uncovered partially burned records and logbooks, all kept in Russian, along with
I
evidence
wasn't
that the
gone for
site had
that
been
long.
evacuated shortly before their arrival. Carved into a desk, also in Russian, were 2
Oh no,
phrases
I
with
could
English
never.
letter finish, and
Good
2
luck,
in
my
Russian
guy.
as well. On the team's second day at the site, an automated alarm sounded at 7:30 a.m., alerting them to the incoming SCP-3034 broadcast. Following the instructions on the desk, Agent Browning was able to stop the broadcast, telling the young Russian girl that all was well. A tape was partially recovered by the team from the site and translated from Russian. The GRUP members that had previously inhabited the station had interrogated one of their own, a man named Sergei, whom they accused of stealing state property. "She's not state property," he replied. "She has a name." While his GRUP superior accused Sergei of planning to defect to the United States, allegedly in exchange for money and asylum, Sergei denied any collusion with America. He claimed that the GRUP at Provisional Site 3034 were meddling with powers they could not possibly hope to understand. His superior, a man named Vaslov, dismissed
I
this,
never had to
claiming their
take
work to
my
be no different from
exams in
United
high
States
school.
experimentations with
I
atomic
just got
weapons.
lucky.
One does not make deals with atom bombs. Shortly after this, a struggle broke out, with Sergei having to be restrained while urging Vaslov to cease any and all interference with it. The man spoke of terrible nightmares that he'd had, voices screaming in the darkness. "That's what it wants, Vaslov. That's what it is. You cannot make a deal with this thing. We have finally contained it, and now you want to offer it." The tape's audio ends shortly after this point. with no clear answer as to what Sergei was referring to, or what offer these Russian authors had made to it. Ever since the discovery of SCP-3034, members of the SCP Foundation have worked tirelessly to understand the purpose of these countdowns, as well as determine their origin. By September 2012, Dr. Shulkill was reaching the end of his tether with the investigation
Go pick up
into the
Tessa and I'll be back.
SCP-3034
Okay.
broadcast. Over
You going,
almost
Sean?
half a century, the Foundation had made well over 600 recordings of the Russian girls' countdowns, but still hadn't determined any noteworthy information. They were prohibited from contacting the girl via the same radio frequency, only permitted to use the phrase that stopped her countdowns. Running out of options, Shulkill contacted his colleague, Dr. Emerson, asking for an in-depth vocal analysis of the various recordings of SCP-3034. Even if they could narrow down where the broadcast was coming from, maybe by determining the girl's geographical location from her dialect, then that would be at least some slight progress into understanding SCP-3034. While unable to discover the girl's location, Dr. Emerson's analysis did yield some interesting findings. Emerson learned that these countdowns were not pre-recorded. The variations in the Russian girl's voice, her tone, her pitch, all seemed to indicate that every instance of the broadcast was unique. Rather than use the same recording, this girl had been counting down over and over, hundreds of times for almost 50 years. But there was more. Shulkill and Emerson then examined the distortion, the sounds interfering with the audio of the Russian girl's countdowns. What had initially seemed like garbled static seemed to actually be additional voices. And much like the girl's voice, these distorted voices were unique, different in every broadcast. However, Shulkill and Emerson were unable to accurately determine what these voices were saying. Given that the girls' countdowns were always cut short by the use of the phrase, all is well, the doctors did not have long enough samples of the audio to analyze the other distorted voices. With permission from the Foundation, the next 5 occurrences of the SCP-3034 broadcast were allowed to carry on for longer, giving the 2 doctors enough audio to determine exactly what the distorted voices were, and the results were extremely troubling. They were screams. Thousands upon thousands of children's voices endlessly screaming. Both Dr. Emerson and Dr. Shulkill agreed that it would be best to continue responding to SCP-3034 with the correct phrase, and refused to analyze the distorted screaming audio any further. 3 years later, while stationed at Provisional Site 3034, a Foundation researcher named Dr. Uriel Willis decided to take matters into her own hands. She conducted an experiment that had not been sanctioned by the Foundation and attempted to make contact with the Russian girl giving the countdowns. Hearing Dr. Willis's voice, the girl stopped her countdown. After 5 long, painfully silent seconds, a new broadcast was heard. A piercing, high-pitched screech that caused extreme pain and dizziness to all the staff working on site. Unable to bear the disorienting sound, Dr. Willis told the girl all is well and caused the noise to stop. The following day, SCP researchers noted that there had been a significant increase in cases of missing children all around the world. A majority of these disappearances happened at the same time the screech had been broadcast and remain unsolved to this day. Dr.
Dang.
Willis faced disciplinary action from the SCP Foundation, and any further testing of SCP-3034 and attempts to communicate with the Russian girl were prohibited. Only one distinct change has been noted in the SCP-3034 broadcast since this incident. Almost a month later, the sound was detected in the correct phrase given, but researchers noted that, instead of starting her countdown from 200, this time the Russian girl began counting down from 199. Nobody knows what will happen if the Russian girl's countdown is allowed to reach 0. Personnel working at Provisional Site 3034 are told to always offer her the necessary phrase before this point in the countdown. Attempting to interfere with the broadcast by contacting this girl directly not only resulted in intense pain for SCP staff, but also seems to have caused an unconfirmed number of child disappearances around the globe, as well as reducing the countdown starting number from 200 to 199. After a long night on the road, you finally find the right turn, sending you in the right direction. As you drive through the night, you keep telling yourself one thing, one small phrase over and over again. You hope the words will eventually give you comfort But deep down, you start to realize just how hollow they are. That it's just a lie we tell ourselves so we don't have to face the inevitable. But still, what choice do you have but to keep telling yourself that all is well? It was November 20th, 2019, when the helicopter circled far above in the freezing wind of the Antarctic. SCP Foundation Site Director Jason Monroe looked down at the isolated above-ground facilities of Provisional Site 344-1. Something about this place made him nervous, edgy, and for good reason. Between 2003 and 2019, 29 mobile task force units and 73 members of D-class personnel had gone missing here and never been found. Monroe his own worst nightmare, literally. But this nightmare began a long time ago, 300 years later. And like most nightmares, it started as a dream. That dream
Yeah, I
of
was texting
expansion.
somebody.
National powers
That's
across
why.
Earth wanted to be the first to conquer the globe and expand into new territories, and sent countless exploratory missions off into the unknown to achieve this goal. Any history book will tell you that the first outsiders to lay eyes upon the continent of Antarctica did so in 1820. The reality is that the first ones to get there actually landed in the late 1700s. The hapless explorers ventured into mainland Antarctica and made base camps before searching and digging for any useful resources nearby. They came upon a strange discovery, a hallway hidden beneath the ice. Not a passage in the ice, but a true hallway, complete with light fixtures. The confused explorers ventured down into these impossible hallways, and for many of them, it would be the last thing they ever did. No matter how, it seemed like the hallways just kept going. As they continued to walk for hours, they hoped to find something, anything, and eventually, they did. They passed from these hallways into somewhere different altogether, and most of them were never heard from again. Those who did manage to escape often died or took their own lives soon after. Whatever it was they discovered down there, they didn't want to live with it on their minds. It's believed that over 70 colonial explorers disappeared or died this way, and that most who found these endless hallways beneath the Antarctic ice never returned. The multiple anomalous objects and phenomena that make up SCP-5545 came into the Foundation's hands several centuries later, on September 18, 2003, when during an expedition into the Antarctic, they too found the endless hallways. The Foundation built Provisional Site 344-1 around them, hoping to safely seal them off from any other unwitting Antarctic explorers or researchers. But there was something else lurking beneath the ice in Antarctica, something dangerous. The hallways were designated as
What's up, Arlap?
SCP-5545-1 and were thought to be the extent of the anomalous activity at the site. But soon SCP-5545-2 was discovered, which resulted in the deaths of 16 researchers. So what exactly is 5545-2? An entity so volatile that even knowing about it is considered to be a containment breach, and as a result, it's kept in Provisional Site 344-2. Unlike Site 344-1, 344-2 isn't a physical space, it's conceptual, accessible only through the endless hallways, created with the express purpose of keeping 5545-1 and
Maybe.
5545-2 separate. Why? Because whenever the two come into contact, the result is 5545-3. The network of endless hallways expanding. If
Yeah, I
they
do
remained in
remember.
contact, the hallways would continue to expand and the entire planet could be filled with endless hallways in just 4 to 6 hours. While the two are though, 5545-3 reverses, but it always would take just a few hours to throw the whole world into a chaos of infinite hallways. SCP-5545 has been given the classification safe. Wait, we're dealing with a mysterious and volatile anomaly that claimed a huge number of lives and still somehow eludes true Foundation understanding, yet the official SCP Foundation classification is safe? How could this be? Monroe was the director of Site-58 and was the definition of no-nonsense. Prior to taking the site director position, he was a decorated member of Mobile Task Force Beta-10 and helped contain numerous Keter-class anomalies. He'd been around the proverbial block when it came to anomalous activity, and something about SCP-5545 and the management of Provisional Site 344 seemed awfully suspicious to him, and he had
I
questions.
told
Like
you I
how
live
such
on
an
Earth, bro.
unpredictable anomaly could be declared safe, and
Area
why
code
such a
Earth
lab
State Earth.
between the Foundation and Dr. Gabriel Reed, who'd been running the facility for
Address
the past
Earth.
2 decades. And most of all, just what exactly was the mysterious SCP-5545-2? Monroe started to believe that something terrible had happened at the site
Nah, I live in
before Reed
Michigan,
was
bro.
covering it all up. But to find out for sure, he'd need to go to Antarctica and investigate it himself. Information about this supposedly safe anomaly was highly classified. Those without O5 clearance could face termination for snooping. But that didn't
You guys
scare
should
just
really watch
Monroe.
SCP
Dealt with
Explained.
better before, he could deal with this. Or so he thought. Monroe submitted a request and was granted
This
unanimous
ain't my
approval by
house,
the O5 Council to travel to
so I
Provisional Site
can't.
344 and get to the bottom of this mystery. He took a chopper to the base soon after, armed with a concealed firearm and a hostile mean detector, or HMD, to test whether the base and its staff had somehow fallen under a hazardous mimetic effect from SCP-5545. He'd find the answers, or die trying. The moment Monroe arrived, he couldn't help but notice the strange way the staff behaved. They seemed listless, almost oppressive. When he showed his credentials to a researcher, they simply said, SCP-5545-2 is contained in Site 344-2. His request to see Dr. Reed that night was denied. Dr. Reed was busy, he was told. Wait until tomorrow. The next day, Dr. Monroe met with Dr. Reed, but the results of the meeting were underwhelming, to say the least. Just like the rest of the
Bye.
staff on the site, he seemed exhausted,
Arlap.
as though he hadn't slept in days. His responses were quiet and evasive, and he refused to tell Monroe anything that wasn't in the official files already. Monroe ran the conversation through the HMD and found nothing out of the ordinary. What was going on here? Monroe was irritated, but not deterred. Nothing would stop him from finding out the truth. The next day, he flexed his O5 credentials and hacked into the base's security system. This gave him access to cameras around Site 344-1, but more importantly, there was a single camera inside the mysterious Site 344-2. Gen Pod. But when he looked at it, the feed was an entirely black screen with the words SCP-5545-2 is contained inside 344-2. The footage of the staff in 344-1 was equally strange. The 18 employees on site all sat at computer banks, with nothing but static playing on their screens. Monroe kept digging, though, and was able to hack into the security footage of Dr. Reed's office. As he watched, he discovered a 15-minute period where Reed left the office each day. He could use this brief window to break in and collect more intel on SCP-5545-2. Monroe was so wrapped up in the investigation that he almost
Nice.
forgot the more immediate danger around him and nearly wandered into one of the endless hallways of 5545-1 by mistake. He made a note to be more careful in the future. His first attempt at breaking into Dr. Reed's office didn't produce many answers. One piece of evidence was a blurry picture of what looked like a mobile task force entering a 5545-1 hallway in the dark. Another was a spreadsheet featuring all the personnel, living or dead, who worked at the site, but one name and the details of whether this person was alive or dead was completely redacted. Anything particularly juicy was hidden behind O5 clearance. If Monroe wanted the answers, he needed to break through. That night, he had a horrific reoccurring nightmare, one that had plagued him since he joined MTF Edit 10. He dreamed that he was in a fancy dining room with a grand fireplace. The room was full of statues of men and women. The men looked angry, and the woman looked afraid. As he approached the fireplace, the ceiling extended infinitely up into the darkness. Suddenly, the zombie-like body of a teenage girl appears in the fireplace, hanging from a long thread. Her eyes look furious and full of rage, and Monroe somehow knows that he's the reason for her hate. When he steps into the fireplace in this dream, she attacks him. The two intertwine, and they burn forever. The one difference was that in this new iteration of the dream, he blinked upon entering the fireplace, and suddenly he was in the hallway. He woke sure that something was terribly wrong here, but he couldn't give up now. The next day, Dr. Monroe broke into Reed's office and made a horrifying discovery. He found files indicating that Dr. Reed was knowingly sending mobile task forces and D-class personnel into the infinite hallways of 5545-1 to their doom. He also found evidence that Reed and the researchers had been spying on him, somehow intercepting copies of the notes he had been taking. That's when Dr. Reed entered the office and interrupted him. Monroe panicked and drew his weapon, holding the doctor at gunpoint. He was breaking so many Foundation rules, but right now, he feared for his life. The doctor seemed unbothered by Monroe's threats, though. He told Monroe that everything was going to plan, and that he should go back to his world. Monroe was becoming increasingly paranoid. He felt that at any moment guards might burst in and execute him. Nothing about this place made sense. He worried he was going insane. Perhaps the only way to find answers was to go even deeper, to risk it and
Bye.
venture
See you
through the
tomorrow.
endless hallways to find SCP-5545-2 himself, and finally discover what this thing actually was. Monroe left his room and stepped into one of the endless hallways of 5545-1 that was located just across from his dorm. He found that it was a hallway like all the others on site. Plain, concrete, worn of age, with simple light fixtures on the walls. He walked for hours, recording with a concealed device. The lights suddenly went out, leaving him in complete darkness. When they flicked back on, he was in a very different environment. A grand, old carpeted hallway, the kind you'd see in an old mansion. He broke into a cold sweat. What was so familiar about this place? He kept walking, racked with terror, until this new hallway finally led him to the place he'd been seeking. Site 344-2, the domain of 5545-2. It was a large, poorly lit room, filled with grimacing statues and a large fireplace at the far end. It was the exact same room from Monroe's dream, with one horrifying difference. Monroe noticed a single white thread hanging down from the infinite ceiling, and when he looked up to find its source, he screamed. There were hundreds of bodies hanging and swinging from the ceiling above him. Everyone who SCP-5545-2 had ever killed, including MTF members, D-Class personnel, and even the colonial explorers from hundreds of years before. And all of them were him. Every single one. They had his face, and there, hanging in the middle of the room at ground level, was the body of a teenage girl, the one from his dream. In that moment, he finally recognized her. She was the girl he'd killed. The first him, hundreds of years ago. Much like Monroe, you're probably wondering, what is going on here? Thanks to declassified communication between Dr. Reed and the O5 Council, we can tell you. Jason Monroe was a man who's been reincarnated hundreds of times over the last 300 years, ever since he murdered a teenage girl, a girl named Emily, his daughter. This murder sparked the existence of SCP-5545 as an eternally reoccurring punishment for his crimes. Since figuring this out, the Foundation has kept tabs on Monroe's reincarnations, whether they're MTF members, D-Class personnel, or even site directors. They see to it that these reincarnations always find their way back to 5545-2 to take his punishment, and prevent the infinite hallway expansion that threatens to destroy the world. It's a plan everyone is in on, everyone except him. But every time he enters that nightmare-haunted room, it all comes rushing back. In that moment, though, he knew his crime, and he somehow knew how many times this punishment had unfolded for him. He now had two choices: repent and accept the punishment again, or leave and activate 5545-3, potentially allowing the endless tunnels to expand across the world. Like his many predecessors, Monroe made the decent choice. He accepted his punishment and allowed his own string to coil around him as the lights in the room went off, one by one, leaving only darkness. Jason Monroe, that version of him, at least, was never seen.
Never seen again.
So sweet,
Damn.
Sweet tarts. Dare to combine. You wash your whole body every day, so why don't you wash your whole mouth? Listerine and wash your mouth.
That is crazy.
When my deadlines pile up faster than my laundry, I use Bulk Create to save the day. I just identify the headline, the image, the copy, and voila! I got dozens of designs in seconds. Design at scale with Canva.
John bought a pair of wiper blades online from a discount.
Seen again. But the SCP Foundation is already eyeing up his next reincarnation and preparing to let this twisted cycle play out all over again. Agent Carla Mendoza was one of the best field agents that Site 41 had ever seen. She was professional, cool under pressure, and when the situation demanded it, she could be a straight-up badass. During a Chaos Insurgency raid on the site, she'd single-handedly killed 4 different insurgents, the last one with her bare hands. During containment breaches, she'd always be the first one charging into the fray, her Foundation standard issue Beretta drawn and ready to fire. Agent Mendoza was so devoted to the job that she took up this site director's offer to start living on site, so she could always be there to help if an emergency situation unfolded. After all, when it all hits the fan, you want someone as utterly unshakable as Agent Mendoza on your side. The job had thrown the worst of the worst at her, and she'd never even flinched. So surely nothing could scare Agent Mendoza, right? After a long day of kicking ass, taking names, and filling in the properly mandated amount of SCP Foundation debriefing paperwork, Agent Mendoza retired to her Site 41 quarters. She felt exhausted and sweaty, so before heading to bed to watch some wonderful SCP Explain videos on her phone, how kind, she decided to take a quick shower. The last thing she expected was for this particular shower to become, well, let's say, Hitchcockian. The water was running hot and clean, filling the air with steam. Agent Mendoza was lathering up her hair when she first heard the noise. Heavy, wheezing breaths coming from just behind the shower curtain. The second she heard it, Agent Mendoza felt a kind of brutal, crushing anxiety that she'd never experienced before. Like a hand was reaching into her chest and squeezing her heart. The self-defense training that had been encoded into her muscle memory over years of working at the Foundation kicked into effect. In a blind panic, she struck out at the shower curtain, causing it to sway outwards and land directly on the face of Mendoza's wheezing voyeur. Who or whatever it was standing right there, less than a meter away from the shower. The wheezing carved into Mendoza's